Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to demystify the really complex world of eating disorders. We'll be using insights from leading academic sources to break down what they are, what causes them, and most importantly, the paths to recovery.
Okay, let's just dive right in with a cultural truth that probably feels familiar to a lot of us. Our society often holds up thinness as the ideal, linking it to success, to health, even to beauty. And this isn't just some passing fad. It's become a deep, powerful obsession.
So, what happens when that obsession goes too far? Well, the consequences can be incredibly serious. This constant cultural pressure has, over the last 30 years, fueled a major rise in 3 specific eating disorders: anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, and binge eating disorder. Now, this is super important. These aren't just different names for the same thing. Not at all. Each one is a distinct condition with its own unique set of behaviors and psychological patterns. So let's break them down one by one.
First up, we have anorexia nervosa. Now, the clinical definition you see here focuses on body weight, which is, of course, a huge part of it. But what's really driving the disorder is a deep, morbid fear of gaining any weight at all. This fear leads to really severe and dangerous food restriction. And this slide really gets to the heart of what's going on psychologically. See, anorexia isn't just about food. It's about an intense, all-consuming fear and a distorted perception of reality. We're talking about a genuine inability to see one's own body accurately. Okay, next is bulimia nervosa. This disorder is defined by a really destructive and often very secretive cycle of behavior. It can take an enormous toll on a person's physical and mental health. And here's the key difference from anorexia. People with bulimia are often at a normal body weight, which can make it much harder for others to spot. But behind the scenes, this vicious cycle of binging and then purging, trying to undo the calories, is happening. It can cause serious medical issues and is almost always followed by these intense feelings of guilt, shame, and depression. And that brings us to the third one, binge eating disorder. Now, it shares that key feature of binging with bulimia. But there's one really important difference that sets it completely apart. The main distinction here is the absence of purging. The deep distress and shame come from the binge itself and that feeling of being totally out of control. And because there are no compensatory behaviors, it often leads to significant weight gain and the health problems that can go along with that.
You know, people confuse anorexia and bulimia all the time, so let's put them side by side. It really helps to see where they overlap and where they're completely different.
You can see the overlap right away, can't you? Both often start after a period of dieting and both involve that profound fear of gaining weight. But the differences are huge. Anorexia is defined by that refusal to maintain a normal weight, which often results in amenorrhea, the loss of the menstrual cycle. The psychological drive is often about a personal quest for total control. Bulimia, on the other hand, people usually maintain a normal weight and are often more concerned with external things, like pleasing others and getting social approval.
So, this leads us to the million-dollar question, right? Why? Why do these disorders happen in the first place? Well, the science is really clear about one thing. There's no single simple answer.
Yeah, there's no one trigger. Instead, researchers talk about something called a multidimensional risk perspective. It sounds a little academic, but the idea is pretty straightforward. Think of it less like a switch and more like a recipe. Multiple factors have to combine and interact to create the risk.
It's really like a perfect storm. You have these powerful societal pressures pushing the thin ideal. You combine that with individual psychological traits like perfectionism or low self-esteem. Then you might add in certain family dynamics, and on top of all of that, a potential biological predisposition. Let's zoom in on that biology piece for a second.
This weight set point theory is absolutely fascinating. The idea is that our bodies are kind of genetically programmed to maintain a certain weight range. Like a thermostat in your house is set to a certain temperature. And when someone tries to drastically fight against that natural setting, well, it can trigger a powerful biological backlash that might contribute to disordered eating.
And speaking of biology, that genetic link is incredibly powerful. The data shows that relatives of people with eating disorders are up to 6 times more likely to develop one themselves. Now, this doesn't mean it's a guarantee, but it definitely shows there's a strong biological vulnerability at play.
Okay, so after talking about this complex, tangled web of causes, it can all feel a bit daunting. But this brings us to the most important part of our whole conversation today. Recovery is absolutely possible. There is hope. Effective treatment is really a two-pronged approach. Step 1, and this is always the first priority,
is medical stability. You have to correct the dangerous eating patterns to restore a person's physical health. But for a recovery that lasts, you have to move to step 2, digging into all the underlying psychological issues, the anxiety, the distorted thinking, the low self-esteem, and you do that through therapy.
And that really leaves us with one final crucial thought to chew on. Understanding these disorders isn't just about individual treatment. It's about all of us, as a society, taking a hard look in the mirror. It forces us to question the cultural pressures we all live with, and to ask ourselves, how can we start to build a culture that values genuine health in all its shapes and sizes, over just a number on a scale?